Oh, that would be rude. And what? But that, and they literally stood there, for like 2 hours. I walked in, I'm like, there's 6 werewolves out there about to kill you. And that guy actually stayed in the bathroom for a pretty long time. Yeah, it was pretty funny. But that temple, I mean, like, they literally stayed there. And I don't think that level of enthusiasm and fanaticism, I mean, yeah, you find that in fans everywhere, but there was just an interesting element to that, to fans of this franchise. How did you kind of cater your design to a different audience from the kind of the vampire audience, or the audience that initially grew out of some of the earlier White Wolf stuff?
Well, when Werewolf was being made, it was consciously attempting to try to bring in different types of gamers who hadn't yet really gotten into vampire and stuff. And those, frankly, are some of the more traditional D&D style exploring, adventuring gamers. And so certainly that was one of the bigger parts of it too. But in the same vein as Vampire, one of the ideas too is, of course, to capture that identification with all these characters, and the tribalism of Werewolf, I think, it's just a really powerful archetype that everyone gets into. It's one thing to say you're of your clan, but then you're going to be fighting with your family and stuff. But tribe is, there's something just really primitive about it that gets at you, in a sense. Yeah, and a pack too, because even if you're going to fight with your pack, you're in this together, which was a really nice thing too, because obviously every gaming group in a tabletop game is a bunch of people sitting around a table, but in Werewolf you actually had a whole extra level to them, that people sitting around the table, they were a pack, they were all together in this and stuff. And it was just, lots of ways to identify with these characters, and I think it's one of the things that got that game to be a lot more fanatic in some levels too. And of course Mage is, everybody's got their own pet ideas on, what's what and so on. And the interesting about Mage is that fanaticism could be detrimental in that, you have guys who, like this type of mage, and they didn't like the changes to this type of mage. And so then you're splitting the audience, and then there's yet another one, and that's splitting it further. And so you've got these battle lines being drawn because of the fanaticism of the fans in a way too, that you never really had with Vampire or Werewolf, where people rolled with the changes a little bit more.
Yeah, they both hit different play style dynamics in a way. You're not really going to be able to teach a group to play in a way that they find most comfortable. If you have a group of players who enjoy, all right, now we all go off and do our own little thing alone, and each of us is going to scheme in turn. We're going to wait and listen to the other guy's scheme. They're going to do very well in Vampire, and they're not going to do very well in Werewolf, but you get the flip side of that, where Werewolf is really tailored for people who take satisfaction in accomplishing things as a group. Eddy did something really incredibly well. That's a win for all of us. And I think when that came out, it opened things up for there are these multiple ways to approach the game in the World of Darkness itself. I mean, you use D&D as a precedent, and people play D&D both ways. I mean, people who play D&D like a vampire game, well, they're the ones who are all stabbing each other in the bedrolls and picking each other's pockets and such. And those who played it like they did a werewolf game, where had a little more eyes on the prize, get to the back of the dungeon, everyone works together. But here you had the extra context of social constructs of sub-societies that are built around this, that encourage it. But the other part of it is, and it's always a big part, is they came about because you do what you like. If you are fortunate enough to have the luxury of being allowed to work on a game line and do kind of what you want to do with it, it's going to reflect what you like. And Werewolf and Mage came about because of that, because of people working on what they thought was most interesting, instead of just trying to make vampire spray painted purple.
and just as a point of clarification, people that play D&D like Vampire are known as elite gamers.
I just found it fascinating how many superhero gamers got brought in by Mage. That was something that really surprised me. You got the D&D players, if you will, with Werewolf, but you got all the superhero guys with Mage.
Yeah.
Well, and leading into that, we're going to go into the audience participation part of the programming.
Thanks, Sean.
No, seriously, at this point, we're going to open up the questions, open up the floor to questions, and so let them have it.
Okay. This is mostly aimed at the werewolf developers.
Speak up.
This is mostly aimed at the werewolf developers. And I noticed a very radical shift from the old to the new werewolf, where things were very much geared against travel, and were very isolationist. Why was that particular design choice made, especially in the context of a camarilla that has, these large conventions where everybody groups together, which seems to be completely antithetical to the current werewolf way of thinking?
Well, that wasn't just werewolf. When the whole New World of Darkness was visualized, first, of course, they focused on the core setting and on vampire. Then I was brought in. One of the things that they stressed was the idea of this is all going to be smaller environments. Everything's starting to play out on a local scale. Instead of having one vampire or one pack that can give orders in Saskatchewan and they must be obeyed in Miami, then everything is going to be, they use the term feudal a lot.
Nobody obeys the Canadians.
Neo-feudal.
That's why they bribe everyone with alcohol.
But
A part of the idea too is it's empowering all your local gaming groups is the idea too, because you don't want them having to worry about, like you said, some other sense that there's another gaming group or something. Part of it, there's no meta plot anymore in the new one, so we weren't carrying forward the fact that here's a character over here who is now head of this whole area here and can wheel and deal and stuff. It's more make up your own game, and the idea is, you're going to probably choose it in your own city, in your own area and stuff. And now you don't actually have to worry too much about what's going on elsewhere. It's your choice whether to do that kind of stuff. So the toolbox approach was much more the very conscious intent in the New World of Darkness, and with that, much more local, much more focused.
there's a mood conceit too, because things become a lot more paranoid. You get a sense of isolation and you get a mounting sense of horror when you know that there is this terrible problem that's happening on our side of the city, and we are in various states of rivalry with the other packs around here, so we may or may not be able to get them in to help out, and we certainly can't, send up a flare and expect King Albrecht to come riding in with his grand glaive in hand and help us out.
Werewolf simple.
You're really kind of on your own, and particularly with Werewolf, we tried to emphasize that when we are trying to make the best of such a change, and certainly it's been a criticism, and it's understandable. I obviously have loved both incarnations of Werewolf, but we decided to move away from the idea of having it be a war, because Werewolves at War was great, but we'd done it, but we hadn't done as much of werewolves hunting, and that was like the most. If you were to ask someone who had never played Werewolf the Apocalypse, what should werewolves do in a game? An answer they would almost certainly say is they should hunt. And that's why everything became focused on the idea of packs and territory, because the day-to-day life, someone called it, being a spirit cop, but you're also being hunters. We wanted to get across the idea that instead of, lining up both your ranks on a battlefield or doing guerrilla wares, there's chasings going on. You catch the spore of your enemy and you start trying to run it down. You pull off ambushes. We wanted that dynamic to be different, partly because, as we say, we'd already done it with Werewolf the Apocalypse, the more, epic battle with the metal plane at 11, but the hunt itself wasn't something we'd stressed as much, and we really wanted to get into what that would mean and how it would look if the packs, your territory is what you have, and you have to actively go out there.
This, if I can chime in, also means your victories are yours alone. You do not have the sense that I was doing this because some other guy from Canada told me, or or that that there was some greater element that you had to go and do, and that you were responsible to someone else's plan, that maybe somebody else is taking the lion's share of the glory. The trials that you face are yours. The